Be diving in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another episode of the Braindance Podcast, and it's a very special episode today. Myself and Peter have not one, but two exclusive card reveals from the Cyberpunk Trading Card Game. We're also going to be reviewing a bunch of other newly revealed cards in this video. Are you ready, Peter?
Absolutely. Let's go with the first reveal. What do you have for us, Joe?
We have Detonate, which is a one Eddie cost. It is sellable, and it is a program with the quick hack tag, with the quick effect, defeat a rival gear with power 2 or less. You know me, Peter, I love gear, so this card terrifies me a little bit. 2 power or less, obviously there's a few gear with like 3 power plus, but most of the cheap gear are 2 power, and the fact that you can do this as a quick effect, you could attack me with your 2 power gear attached, and I respond, and suddenly that gear is no more, and that can make a big difference, right? That 2 power could mean you previously were 1 ahead of me, and now you're 1 behind me, and that could actually be winning you a game, I would imagine, potentially, if the stars align.
Absolutely. I love this card. It's very thematic to the Cyberpunk universe, especially with this card art as well. And it's kind of exactly what Red needed. Every color, as far as I'm aware, has one cheap kind of combat trick. This is the one of Red. And it's going to be tricky to play around because you never know if your opponent leaves an Eddie open to play something like Detonate, or if they just want to call a legend and actually have nothing in hand. So just being able to bluff this card, represent this card, is going to give Red a big power boost, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's not like you can suddenly not play gear that costs 2 power or less, right? Because a lot of the decks, that is going to be some of the most important cards in your decks. It's sellable as well. So very, very flexible. I like the card a lot, I gotta say. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. This definitely allows for some cool mind games. Should be a strong card. I'll give this a 8 out of 10 rating.
Yeah.
Just because there will also be some situations where it's going to miss or your opponent won't really give you an opportunity to get a good target. But this is a scary card to have in the meta and always have in the back of your mind when you're playing against it.
Yeah, I think 8 is actually spot on for me as well. I was thinking 8.5 or 7.5. Let's just go with 8. It's in the middle. Because it could brick sometimes, right? It is sellable, but if you're playing against a deck that doesn't play gear, it's going to be stuck. That's also the other thing, right? Like if this card proves to ever be like top, you could build your deck with it in mind and just try to make it a brick in your opponent's hand, right? So,
good point. I do believe most decks, or pretty much all decks, are going to have some targets, some gear.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We talked about how important gear is in this game.
Yeah.
But fair point. In a Braindance heavy deck, there might just not be that many targets when you have this card in hand. Not at the right time, at least.
But this is not the only card we've got to reveal. And thank you again to WeirdCo for that, because there is another card. Peter, it is. You can introduce this one.
All right. We have the Max Tag Heavy. 7 cost, 8 power. At first looks kind of expensive. Costs 3 green RAM. NCPD tag and says play this unit for -1 Eddie for each of a rival's units to a minimum of 1 Eddie. So I'll be quite honest, when I first saw that card, I was a bit underwhelmed. It looks a bit overpriced. Solidly statted, but not like crazy well statted. But then if you think about how games in Cyberpunk TCG usually unfold, especially when you play against aggressive strategies, they often will play a unit on turn 1 and try to play 1 or 2 units on turn 2. And all of a sudden, your Max Tag Heavy might only cost 4 or 5 Eddies. At that point, it's pretty insane. If your opponent plays a full-on swarm aggro strategy after their 3rd turn, they might have 4 or 5 units on the board. This will come in at a huge discount. We did see another card that is a vanilla 5 Eddie cost 8 power. So as long as it's on parity with that or even cheaper, this card can be insane.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be difficult, should it, really, to make it cost 5. So obviously, like the vanilla cards have that little bit more safety net, like they're always going to cost that. But the fact that you could get this down so cheaply, like I think it could prove to be a really meta-relevant card, where you put as many copies of this in your deck as possible, and you just wait for that right moment to just drop 2 in the same turn very, very cheaply, and then start doing your attacking and clearing up and try and swing the game in your favor.
That's a great point. There's some synergy here with the card we previewed in the last episode. That was Valentino Street Racer. That gives another card a rush or adrenaline the turn that it's played. So
yes,
even if you can't get the max tag heavy out in the early game, you can get some pretty crazy combos in the mid to late game with it. And good point about the meta relevance. I think the more aggro or swarm heavy the meta is going to be, the more we will see this card as an answer, as a response to have an edge, to have an advantage over the meta. Another thing to note is the NCPD keyword. I'm curious about it because I've seen it on a bunch of cards by now, but there has not been any real synergy or payoff for that keyword revealed yet. Maybe we'll still get it this set. Maybe in one of the future sets, this card could become even better.
Awesome. So I think it's fair to say, Peter, we're both pretty big fans of both the cards. What's the rating on this one? I'm going to give this one a 7.5.
I'm actually totally agreeing with you. I'd also say somewhere between 7 and 8. Like in a slow meta, this might just be a 5 or a 6, especially if you play against Braindance heavy decks or gear heavy decks that don't play a lot of units. In a unit heavy meta, this could easily be a 9 out of 10 or even a 10 out of 10. I'm just personally not that fond of vanilla stat lines, so let's stick with the 7.5 out of 10. Yeah.
I like vanilla stats.
Fair.
Especially in the set 1 of a game, historically, right? If ever there was going to be a time a card would be good, but this isn't a vanilla card, so. But yeah.
True.
Big thank you to WeirdCo for allowing us to reveal these two cards. I think they're both pretty damn good. Detonate and Max Tack Heavy. But now we're going to move on to looking at many of the other cards that have been revealed since our last episode, particularly focusing on green and red, which are the two colors which we reveal cards for ourselves. And we've got a legend to start off with. It's Padre, Man of the Cross, Fixer, Ganger, and Valentino. When you call him, you choose either to spend a rival unit or draw one, and you can spend him to set a player's gig to the same value as another player's gig. Wait, this card's crazy. Cool, spend a rival unit is so good. Okay, this might be one of my favorite legends in the game.
Yeah, I agree. Super flexible. It's very scary in a lot of ways. Keep in mind, this also works in your opponent's turn. So, for example, if they map out their turn and they want to attack with 3 units, and on the first turn you call Padre and spend one of their other units, you might just have disrupted their whole turn plan or game plan. But also on your turn, just to make a unit vulnerable to a value trade, to a favorable attack, to get rid of one of their engines. And if it doesn't have a target, you just draw one. I'm a big fan of the fixer designs. Each color has one. Padre might just be the strongest of them.
I think what I'm looking for in a legend is something which has an impact on board state, right? Like Cyberpunk seems to be a very tempo-focused game, and having a legend which can spend a rival unit, to me, that sounds like maybe the best legend ability in the whole game so far. That's the kind of legend that I want to be when I'm calling. I want to have that as an option. That just sounds like being able to spend a unit can win. We played a lot of games, Peter, with some proxy cards, and one of the cards I was playing, I can't remember the name of the exact card, but it's one that spent one of your units, and that card just kept winning me game after game. So I think this is a really strong legend. Now, I think spend a rival unit is definitely the most powerful part on this. Being able to draw in a case where that's not relevant is a nice option. But then what about the second ability, which is you can spend it to set a player's gig to the same value as another player's gig?
It's a bit of an odd one. It would be super busted if you could also give your own gigs parity, because that would interact with a lot of green payoff cards. It's still nice to have this as an option to either disrupt your opponent's game plan if they're going for max or min gigs, and you can adapt nicely, or, you adapt to whatever you currently try to do. Situational, but you don't need this in every situation, so it's just a nice add-on on top of an already strong card.
Yeah, and if your opponent steals one of your gigs to disrupt your value pair or whatever, right, you can then just copy that one back. Similarly, if they're going for min gigs and you want a min gig, or if they're going for max gigs and you want a max gig, maybe, you just get lucky and they just have a number that you want. So I think it's like, as a secondary ability, very reasonable. But the real value here is on spend a rival unit. I've got to say, Peter, I think it might be my best legend. I think I want to play this in every deck. I really like it.
So that's a 10 out of 10 for you?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay. I think this is a Swiss Army knife, an absolute toolbox. I'm just going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I think on its own, the card does not win games and it's not a full build around.
Yes.
It's just a good card in every situation. So 9 out of 10 is mine rating.
And I think, like, to your point, one of the weaknesses is you don't know when you're going to call this, right? And you might be wanting to call it in to spend something, and then it just doesn't show up at the right time. And similarly, you might want to be holding it to spend a rival unit until the right moment, but then that stops you calling in your other legends, right?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I will mention about this one, though, I think in the, what do they call it? The sealed events, the pre-release events, this is going to be a very, very good card. I think in limited type of formats, this can just fit into any deck.
Perfect. Okay. Up next, we've got Max Tac AV. It is 5 Eddie cost for 8 power, 8 stats, and it's NCPD, it's a vehicle, and when you play it, you may swap a friendly gig with a rival gig.
So far we have a strong vanilla stat line at 5/8 with an additional upside that is optional. You may swap a friendly gig with a rival gig. It's not forced. This just looks strong. This is kind of like Pepe Naharo, but not quite as much on steroids. And, so far, the vehicle keyword, I think, has been a slight hindrance, actually, because there's this one card that was something like Take Control that has an additional benefit if you target your opponent's vehicles. It's a very small hindrance, though. I do think the card is just good. This is probably also like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and it makes me a little bit happy because I think I went on a bit of a rant previously about Padre being a 5/8 and overly good for vanilla. Well, clearly it's not quite vanilla, right? I think we did see a vanilla card at the same stats, but yeah, this is really good. I think, especially as I said in set 1, any kind of just pure stats, when you just get pure stats, maybe a little bit of an effect on top, is usually a very good place to be. So I like the card a lot also. 8 out of 10.
This is okay, gotcha. Yeah, this is another one of those cards that's probably going to fall off in later sets once the decks become more synergistic, become higher power level. But early on set 1, this should be good. In your limited events, this should be great.
Next, we have Pan Am Palmer, Strength Through Family. 6 Eddie cost, actually a 4 Ram cost. So you're going to need 2 green legends to play this one. But you get 6 stats. It's during your turn, you may call a legend for free. And you can, when attacking, discard 1. If you do, draw 1 for each friendly face-up legend. Not sure about that one. I'd rather just have raw stats, It's a 6/6. You could argue it's like a 5/6 because you get to call a legend for free, right? Admittedly, you might be able to call a legend for free the turn you play it, and then call a legend for free the next turn. So you could even say it's like a 4 cost for 6 in that sense, right?
Yeah, except you can only play this on your turn 3. Yeah. And ideally, to get full value, you would not have called a legend yet. Right. So yeah, it's weird. This one's tough to evaluate because we don't know yet how good backline engines are in this game. So what this is great at is, especially if you're going second, this allows you to just play Pepe Naharo turn 1, Max Tac AV turn 2, just curve out with huge numbers, play this turn 3 and kind of catch up on the legend calling. I think the true value lies if you get multiple attacks off with Panam and she just draws ridiculous amounts of cards.
And maybe if there's like some discard synergy, right? Like there's something you actually actively want in your discard, for example, that would also go a long way. But yeah, I'm not too convinced by this one, I've got to say.
Good point.
I'd rather just have raw stats.
I agree. One thing I noticed is also the card is a bit insynergistic on it, like with herself, because the second half of the text wants you to the second half of the text wants you to have all of your legends ready already, ideally the first time you attack, but then you miss value on the call a legend for free. So ideally, you have to sit on your board for it a couple of turns and then still attack once or twice. I just think Cyberpunk's a bit too fast of a game for this. I still think the card's not bad. 6/6 is still an okay stat line. You get the economy effect. You have a strong attack value effect. Surely this is above average. 7.5 out of 10.
I mean, you get 2 legends basically for free by the time it can attack, right? So I think it's like solid. But yeah, I just want raw stats. I'm going to be really harsh on this one. I'm going to give it a 3. I just don't think it has enough stats for its cost.
I get your point, though. If Cyberpunk ends up, if the meta ends up being really fast, she will be too slow.
Mm-hmm. All right, up next. We have Dexter Deshawn off the grid. There might be some more green cards. That doesn't feel like there was that many green cards. I might have mixed them up a bit. We'll see. Dexter Deshawn off the grid. It is a red legend. Fixer, cool. Choose one effect. Give a friendly unit +2 power this turn or draw 1. And then you can spend him to increase your gig by up to 2. It's also pretty good. I don't think it's as good as Padre, but that +2 power is arguably better on your opponent's turn than Padre is, right? So I think like the best use case would be on your own turn, you call him in and give something +2 power when it's being attacked.
Yeah. Or if it's your last legend left and your opponent does not know you're playing Dexter Deshawn, but you do, then it can be a reliable, very strong combat trick.
Yeah,
I agree. Really I think Padre is better. I do think this is still fairly flexible. And even like the last part of the effect, increase a gig by up to 2, is very good in a color that is very reliant on playing 8+ value gigs.
Mm-hmm. And also like just turning something from 8 to 10 is a very big deal as well, right? To get that extra gig. So very flexible. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I do think in comparison to Padre, I can only give this like a 7 out of 10, 7.5 maybe. But it's definitely a solid legend. Another like nice little toolbox.
I'm gonna give it an 8. Like the big question is a lot of the legends are like very sort of passive, static. They keep doing something each turn. I'm quite interested in these legends that when I call them have like that instant impact. I'm never wanting to draw off these cards, right? I'm always wanting to get like their +2 or spend a rival unit effect. But I'm going to give it an 8.
That's fair.
Next. Yeah, we've gone to green. I think Dexter's stuck in there. We've got Zetatech Berserk. It's a 6-cost gear. Cyberware Zetatech or Zetatech. Play this gear for -1 eddy for each friendly face-up legend to a minimum of 1 eddy. And it's +3. So very importantly, guys, it cannot be detonated.
All right. First evaluation when I saw this card. How do you get to 1? As far as we know, you can only have 3 face-up legends. So at best, this is going to be a 3-cost +3.
Maybe 2v2 mode. 2v2 mode, right? Maybe it's in a 2v2 mode, there could be 6 legends.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a good point.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, but evaluating for 1-on-1, I would have to say this card's really bad. Or there are just so many better options for gear that are more eddy efficient and have bigger effects. Honestly, like with what we know right now, this might just be a 1 out of 10.
Even when Detonate exists, does this make this slightly more playable because Detonate?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty bad, right? I think I also agree. It's like 1.5 out of 10. But
this might be good in the future. Maybe we'll also have some other effects that copy legends temporarily or whatever, and there's other ways to reduce this to 1 or 2 eddy cost. Then it would be good. But with 3 or above, it's subpar.
Yep. Okay, Wild in the Streets. It's 5-cost program. It is actually costing you 4 green rams, so you're going to need 2 green legends. It's a Ganga, and you defeat a spent unit. So that's just some hard removal, but only on a spent unit, which is a really big deal. A lot of the time when you want hard removal in Cyberpunk, you're going to be wanting to remove something that's ready because that's when they are not vulnerable to attacks, right? So the fact it's limited to a spent unit is a pretty significant, it's a very significant deal, but it is of course still a really powerful effect.
Padre synergy. I mean,
Mm.
green has quite a few options to spend a rival unit, but at that point, you are investing
Yep.
1 or 2 effects plus this 5 Eddy card. It seems too expensive. Like, I would probably play this at 3 Eddies. At 4, I'd already think about it. I'm not sure if this makes the cut at 5 Eddies.
It is also 4 green rams, so that definitely significantly reduces the amount of decks you could play it in. It's not a bad card, that's for sure, right? Like if I'm playing a draft or something like this, I'm definitely picking it up. I think you probably need some synergy with this card to make it worth it, right? Like, is there some gang? Is there some program synergy that could make this? Like if there's like some kind of card in the future that reduces the cost of programs you play or something like this, right? Then I think this becomes a lot better. Without any synergy, I think it's okay. I could see playing like a one of, since it's sellable as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I give it like a solid 5 out of 10.
I was just going to say the same. An average 5 out of 10, and maybe we'll see some good pop-off combos with this in the future.
We have Don't Fear, in bracket, the Reaper. Peter's happy about this one.
Yes, Samurai Tag. And the effect is spend all rival units, then defeat a spent unit. So for all of those who finished the Cyberpunk game, this is... Well, I don't want to spoiler too much, but this is a very cool ending path to take. I think it's also a song by the rock band Samurai. I think that's where the tag comes from, even though I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, the effect is very thematic for that. Spend all rival units, then defeat a spent unit. This is basically...
7.
Yeah, an interesting kind of finisher move, right? Because you can get rid of blockers if you try to set up a final swing, or you can use this to establish board dominance. If it's still the mid game, maybe, if no one is close to lethal range yet, then you can just get complete board control and take like 3 or 4 value to it.
Yeah, I definitely like this a lot more than the previous one, right? Like you're spending 2 more, but like the impact is a lot higher. It's like doing the exact same thing, but also spending everything else. And yeah, like because you're going to be the one attacking, you just perfectly line the numbers up, right? Like my 7 goes into your 6, my 8 goes into your 7, and suddenly I just win the game.
Yeah, that's a scary card to face. It is sellable, so you could technically even slam 3 of these early. I think most decks are probably just going to want to play this as a 1 or 2 of. 2 of seems like a good ratio. 3 green rams, so you'd still need to currently play double green to include this in your deck. I think this is this card is to be taken seriously, though.
Yeah,
I think this is like an 8.5, a 9 maybe out of 10.
I think 9. I think it's really good. Right, like we've played a lot of games of Cyberpunk, and I think if either of us had access to this card, we would have been playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. In the starter decks, especially with the lower power level, this would be so cracked.
Yeah. Okay. Onto the red cards, we've got Ruthless Lowlife, an OG from the Alpha kits, but he has been reborn. It's still 2 cost, but it has a massive 4 power. However, this unit can only attack rival units, which means it cannot attack gig areas.
Yeah, what are we thinking about this one? At my first glance, I thought this card is kind of cracked. Like a 2/4 is just...
Nox is hopeful.
Kind of games.
Wrong card game. Nox is hopeful.
But in most card games, this is just... Like, board control is so important that it's so efficient to trade. Then I thought about it a bit further, though, and one thing that did pop into my mind is if you play this type of aggro deck with a lot of cheap units, I think you want to gain tempo immediately by attacking your opponent's fixer area, by attacking the gig dice right away. And this would be a 2-drop that can't snowball the board, but it doesn't accelerate your win condition and gives your opponent enough time to stabilize with their greedier deck.
Yeah, like if you're playing a 2-drop, I think you want to be able to steal a gig, or you want to be able to block, right? Or have some kind of like high impact effect. This kind of is just going to sit there collecting dust. I think it's really bad, which is interesting because it's got great stats. But I think the reality of this card is it collects dust and does very little.
I find this hard to evaluate. At first glance, I thought like, 10 out of 10 rating. Then I thought about it further and I was like, yeah, you might be right. This could be garbage. I have no idea how playable this is going to be. I just go for a diplomatic middle ground and give this a 5 out of 10.
Imagine top decking this card late in the game. This card is
Yeah, that's-
absolutely trash. I'm going to go brutal. I think it's terrible. I think it's a 0.5 out of 10. Do you know what? I think it's a 0.1. It's so bad. Like, what do you want 4 stats for? What can 4 stats reasonably trade up to? Maybe like A3 drop?
Okay, like I think it's terrible in an aggro deck. I think if you play a red deck that's more like mid-range / value focused, like imagine the Yorinobu Arasaka archetype, right? Who revives your units, who draws cards of Arasaka units.
That's true.
So in those cases, I think it might even see some play.
I'm being harsh, aren't I? I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, that's much better.
That is much more
I agree, though. In aggro decks, I don't know if this makes the cut.
No, it doesn't.
I think some strategies can make use of it.
I think you're right. I'm always an aggro player at heart, and I'm probably over-evaluating it with that in mind, but I think you're spot on that it could find a home in something slower.
Thing to note here is, like, isn't Evelyn Parker also like the Ganger synergy, and something about like make your opponent's cards attack in their turn, and then all of a sudden you create targets for Ruthless Lowlife, and it's pretty the efficient up trading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might be completely wrong with this card, but I go with my initial rating, 5 out of 10, and I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I'm going to go for a 2. I think you might have saved me on that one. I think that might have aged badly. Chrome Fang up next. It's 5 eddy cost for 6 power. When you play it, until your next turn, rival units can't steal friendly gigs with value higher than their power. So if your opponent has a 5 power unit, it cannot steal a gig that costs 6 or more, etc.
So a cool card design, honestly, to protect your high value gigs, especially if you run a strategy with few blockers and you just need these effects where you want like 2 or 3 8+ value gigs. Also, if all of your gigs are high value, your opponent cannot steal a single one. Oh my goodness, this card might be better than I first thought.
Yeah, I like the sound of it in that sense, right? The smallest dice is a 4, though, right? So you're probably always going to have something that can be stolen. 4, 6, even 8. Those should be relatively easy to steal. So it's probably hard to like lock your opponent out and like totally win the game with this card, right? And I think if you could win the game with this card, I think it's great. Otherwise,
That's a good point. The cool thing is, though, if you roll all of your high dice, by the time that the game could, on paper, be closed out, you did not roll the D4 or D6 yet. So it, like, in a cool way, your opponent can play around that card. If they roll their small dice first and you then steal them, then they can re-steal those dice. But I could see this be a 1 or 2 off in those like more grindy red decks that don't want to run down the opponent, but rather want to win through board control and value.
5, 6 stats wise, I think that's what it all comes down to, is like how good are the stats. And I think it's like, I'd probably rather just play raw stats.
Yeah. Yeah, at face value, I'll give this card like a 4 out of 10. But in the right build, as a scary 1 or 2 of this could be a 7 or 8 out of 10 as like a little finishing move, basically.
I'm going to give it a 3 with that in mind, that maybe as a one-off, you could cheese some wins with it. I do like cheesing wins.
True. That's what card games are for, after all. Moving into V, the Roar of the Badlands. 5 cost 6 might. Similar stat line as the previous card, but when this unit steals a gig, increase it by up to 5 at the end of your turn if you control 2 or more gigs with 8+ value. Draw 1. Okay, so synergies with the big gig strategy. Drawing a card, we like drawing a card, but the same stat problem.
Yeah.
Do think the card is solid. It's a bit of like do everything rather. But just sheerly due to its stat line, I don't give it a super high rating. Like my initial take is maybe a 7 out of 10.
I think it's too high. I know, like I'm sounding like a dead. I'm beating the dead horse here with stats, but in Cyberpunk, right, like 1 power difference is so huge, right? Because it's the way the combat works with no damage counters is the difference between a 5 and a 6 is so big, right? And similarly, therefore, if I've got the option of playing this kind of card with an effect or a 5 with 7 and no effect, I'm probably picking the 7 every time. So I would say that this is worse than a vanilla card.
I got your point. What's your rating then?
2? I think 2.
Oof, yeah.
Like being able to steal a gig and increase it by 5 is definitely interesting though. And then the fact that you could draw 1, but you also have to like attack your opponent's gig area to do that. It's quite, locked in on that strategy. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's quite bad.
Yeah, this might be a bit of a snowbally like win more cards. Yeah, I think you kind of convinced me. I go down a bit on the rating. I will stay at like 5 out of 10 though. Like the stat line is not completely terrible. The effect can be a great payoff, especially if you get multiple attacks through.
I think also like as the final point on why I'm a big believer in this game with like just raw stats on units is the fact that your units are not sellable and therefore you just want your unit to just be consistently good. You're going to have, if you draw it, you're going to have to play it, right? So I think raw stats is probably the way to go. Although there is that one guy in the comments who doesn't like me mentioning that fact. We have our first hater, guys. I'm very proud.
We made it. We're in the big leagues now. Okay, you like stats, so how about this one? Animals Wrecker, Animal Ganger, and the text box is just flavor text. It's just a 6/10 and 3 red ram.
Bro, it's broken. That's so busted. Why would you ever not play this card? Okay, because you don't have 3 red ram? Well, time to get 3 red ram, guys.
Yeah.
What? It's busted.
Yeah, I'm not even a big fan of vanilla cards, but honestly, in the base set, this has to be great.
The difference was, I said previously, the difference between 5 and 6 is a really big deal in this game. Well, the difference between 9 and 10 is like a whole extra 5 ratings this is like a 15 out of 10. Because of course, when you attack with a 10, you steal 2 gig. And it's also 007. I mean, come on. The card number's 007. It's meant to be.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. I'm finding it hard to rate these. Like, I usually never give the cards top ratings. This might just be an exception. This is going to trade so well. This always threatens to steal 2 gigs without even having to invest an extra gear onto it. Okay, I go with 9 out of 10.
9.5?
Deal.
I think it's a 10 out of 10. This card's ridiculously good. Holy moly. I think that's just super staple. Expected to be everywhere. Our next, Arasaka Emergency Radio Port. It's a 2-cost gear, so it is sellable. 2 red ram. You get +2 power from it, so already pretty good in terms of pay 2, get +2. And then the ability, when this unit or legend is spent, you may look at a friendly face-down legend. If that legend is Arasaka or has Go Solo, you may call it for free. Okay.
So how do we evaluate this? So first of all, the core stats are not terrible. 2 for 2.
Yep.
You would want this card to have a good effect for that to be worth it. But basically, you will always play this card that you at least get 1 spent trigger. So if you have a deck with only Arasaka or Go Solo legends, this is a 1/2, right? Like 1 Eddie cost +2 power. If you get it triggered 2 or 3 times, you can even use this as a little economy engine. It is niche in the regard that you have to play a very specific deck for that to be good. I do love these kinds of cards, though, that just enable certain archetypes very well. The effect is not giga broken, it's not carry games on its own, but it just gives it like this support, consistency, and efficiency that an archetype like the Arasaka one might need. I think, like, again, in limited and standalone, this card is very mediocre, like maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. I think in the right deck, this can be a staple 8 out of 10.
I have a good feeling about this one too. Like, I like gear generally. I'm a pretty big fan of it. And 2/2, I think it's like actually fine. It's not the most unbelievable, that's for sure. But like, If you're wanting to play like a deck that has tons of gear, it's an additional option to improve the maths. And then similarly, like the effect is the ability to look at a face down legend still does quite appeal to me, right? We look at cards like Padre, Dexter, Deshawn. If you're looking at a face down legend, I think it's quite a powerful thing to be able to do. You don't just want that to be the main thing the card does, right? And the main thing this card does is it's just a 2-for-2 gear. But then maybe you have that ability to look at a face down legend, and then obviously in the specific decks, when you have Arasaka or Go Solo, it's almost like you're paying 1 for this card to get 2, right? Because you get to call a legend for free. So I think the card's pretty damn good, actually. I think it's like a 7, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, another very cool play pattern this enables that we didn't have yet is if you go second, you call a legend turn 1, you equip this to your legend that just got called because you paid with another Eddie, you can flip 2 legends in your first turn. And especially like you went second, your opponent gets their second turn, they swing in. You might even have 3 legends ready by the time you start your second turn.
That is very interesting. Yeah, no doubt about that. And it depends, like, obviously, equipping a +2 gear to a non-Go Solo legend doesn't sound great, but on a Go Solo, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question is, how good are Go Solo legends? Not the biggest fan, but actually, I think you would probably want to equip them with some gear before they come down if you're playing them. So I like the card. I think it's pretty good. Deadman Transmitter. You can go for this one, Peter.
All right, a 3 Eddie cost and 3 red ram. Cyberware Trauma Team, and this gives +1, which is not a lot, but if this unit would be defeat its Deadman Transmitter instead.
Oh.
So Guardian Angel says hello from League of Legends and Riftbound. And multiple card effects like this exist in other games, and usually they're quite good.
Yeah, like the card in Riftbound that has the same effect is really, really similar, right? It's +1, it costs 2. The big difference really is in Riftbound when you equip that unit, the equip cost means you have to like burn an Eddie basically, right? And that card's extremely good in what you sort of call these like Defender Princess decks. So if you've just got like some unit that you really want to keep on the board, that your whole deck is being built around, that this is there. And I think it's really good. The fact you get +1 stat too, I gotta say I like this one an awful lot.
Yeah, this is also on the same colors as the 7-cost Yorinobu Arasaka, who, if I recall correctly, comes in at 9 power.
Perfect.
You would get it to 10 with this. You have Minotaur at 9 power. You would get it to 10 with this. So a lot of cards you'd really want protected really benefit from just this 1 extra power. And one thing to mention, though, this does allow for quite a bit of counterplay. For example, if your opponent has bottom deck effects instead of defeat effects.
Right, that's a really good point, yeah. Because that will bypass it, right?
Yeah, so your unit is not guaranteed to be safe. It still allows for some play, but from what I've seen so far, I think mostly blue has bottom deck effects. So depending on what kind of colors you face, you'll get a good feeling whether or not your unit is actually safe or not. The other thing is, if you do equip this to, say, your Yorinobu Arasaka and you swing in, he gets 1 extra life, but he's still going to remain spent. So if your opponent has 2 or 3 units that can threaten to take out Yorinobu, he might still be dead at the end of the turn.
Yep. It's very true, right? Like, it will stay spent. I mean, I guess you could equip 3 of these to 1 unit if you really want to protect it, right? And then it gets bottom decked.
No.
Yeah. I like it, though. I think it's a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm like 8 or 9 out of 10. I think it's very good, but not giga broken. And can see this be like a 1, 2, or 3 of in quite a few decks that are like protect the princess, protect the engine.
I think I go 9 out of 10. I think it's really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's fair.
Okay, we've got 2 more to go, and we've got Gunpoint Diplomacy, which is a program. It costs 4, and it is 3 red RAM. Give a friendly unit these effects. If you have less street cred than a rival, they instead choose 1 effect for you. Kind of clunky text written, but basically what that means is like, if I have more street cred than Peter, I get to choose both. And if Peter has more street cred than me, but I play the card, Peter chooses only one of them for me. And the two effects are, the next time this unit attacks this turn, it may attack ready units, and then give this unit +3 power this turn. So ideally, I have more street credit than Peter when I play this, and then I get to give a unit +3 power, and choose a unit that can attack ready units. Attacking ready units, really flipping good.
The downside is I'm pretty sure both parts of the effect have to target the same unit. So you juice one up,
Give
and
a
you
friend,
can
yeah,
attack
that's
a
true.
ready
Yeah,
unit.
that's true.
So yeah, a lot of texts. It's an interesting card it allows your opponent to prevent this from happening by just making sure that they steal your big gigs. And if they're ahead on tempo, this card will not be the one that saves you.
But now with the rules changes, right? I should be able to just steal the big gig and swing the street cred 20 in my favor if I steal one of your 10 gig dice, right? And maybe get to trigger this relatively easily.
Point. And then you can maybe take out one like big backline engine or something. The issue is if, for example, your opponent has some blockers in the first place, or like a big unit with blocker, right? With Riot Shield, with Mandibular Upgrade, or whatever all of the blocker gear is called. You won't really get past it that easily. And I thought about what kind of use cases would this card be great in. I think at 4 cost, it's usually too expensive. I don't think I would include this in a lot of decks.
I think blockers are the big problem with this, I think, which I hadn't considered. I was actually quite liking the look of it, but it folds very heavily to a single blocker, right? You just trade this for a blocker. So in a deck, if you've got a way of like getting rid of those blockers, this could be, I think, very good actually. But without that, it's quite bad. I think the cards actually are right, and I think that is the key thing, right? Like, if you can answer the blockers, I think this card actually turns very, very good. But then, it's not like you're only removing the blockers to get value out of this card. Removing the blockers is strong. So in some kind of deck that has lots of options to remove blockers, I think this card's really good. Otherwise, it's pretty bad.
But even then, at 4 cost, is it really worth it?
I think so, right? Because like you play, let's say like a 6 cost, and then I use this to take it out for free, basically. Not for free, but like there's potential to trade up there, right?
Yeah, and I guess you have tempo on your side in that case. Like your opponent is going to have to redevelop afterward.
You kind of go 1 for 1, right?
Yeah.
In that case.
I'll stick with my gut feeling. I think the card is below average. I think it might be on the poor side, and I only give this like a 2.5 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5, but I think if there's a way of like dealing with blockers really easily, I think this actually could prove to be like a 6 or a 6.5.
Yeah. For me, it's just too situational, and there are too many ways for your opponent to interact with this. And I'm even evaluating this card, assuming that you'll almost always get the double effect. If you only get one of the effects and your opponent can choose, I don't know.
I'll give it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3. Last card, though, it's Shattered Memories. 4 costs program for 2 red RAM, and it's a Braindance, which means we like it on this podcast. Each player discards their hand and may draw 5. If the total number of discarded cards equals the value of a friendly gig, draw 2.
Wheel says hello.
Yeah.
A
whole new world.
Exactly. A whole new world, big wheel and magic. There's one effect like this in almost every card game, and I still don't get why. Okay, but let's evaluate this card at power level. It's insane if you have an empty hand and your opponent has cards in hand. It's even better if you can control your gigs nicely enough that you, instead of drawing 5, draw 7. The issue with this is you usually want to play this in the late game. Like, you won't be able to empty your hand that quickly. And in the late game, do you really want to invest a bunch of resources on anything other than finishing the game? The other way to play this is combo decks. You either want a lot of cards in your trash or specific cards in your trash, or you want to cycle through your deck very quickly and find a lot of cards. That might be a better use case if you ask me. But like, what kind of combo decks, what kind of payoffs did we see in the reveal season? The only one would be like Relic, Big Boy Atom Smasher.
Yeah.
But that's a mono yellow deck. It can't play red cards.
Well, there's one burning question I have with this card, Peter, and you might be the man that knows it. Is there a mill win condition in Cyberpunk? Because I can't remember.
Good question. Very good question.
Should we go check? Should we pause and go check?
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
Big news, everybody. We've looked up the wording. And Peter, what is the ruling on decking out or being milled in Cyberpunk?
So the exact text says, finally, if you are required to draw a card but have no cards left in your deck, your rival immediately wins.
Bro, okay. So that changes a lot.
Yeah, that changes things. This card went from bad to niche playable in some very fun decks very quickly. So how do we make this work? We either play this card, 3 times, or we find effects that can replay this card from trash, or we tech this in against very draw-heavy decks, like the ones I love to play with Hanako Arasaka. We just let our opponent draw a gazillion cards of Hanako and then finish them with Shattered Memory. That being said, it's not that easy still, right? 40-card decks, this only draws 5. And cards, or rather games in Cyberpunk TCG don't last that long. So this is going to be a nice counterattack against draw or trash heavy decks. Yeah, it's interesting. What's your evaluation on this? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other stuff going on with the mill as well, right? Because like some of the niche interactions are usually in card games. If you play this kind of card, it would be me as the player. I would technically resolve it first and discard, draw 5, and then you would. So the way this card would work in Lorcana, with the old mill ruling there, is if I try and draw from an empty deck first, so say I have 4 cards left, you have 1, I would have to draw them first and I would lose therefore, even though you had less cards. So in order to win off this card, you need to have less than 5 cards in your deck and I need to have more than 5. Otherwise I would lose myself. So you need some kind of it's not just, you just put 3 of these in your deck, you play as many as possible, you win. Because you also need to make sure that you're not thinning your deck in other ways. Can you somehow beef up your deck? Is there a card that's going to allow you to refill and put stuff back in the deck? So there's a meme deck out there which you can be sure that I will be playing because I love mill. I'm a degenerate, that's for sure. So I love this card. Do I actually think it's good though? Paying 4 for this kind of effect is a big tempo loss, right? In a normal deck. But if you can find ways to make this more cheap, I think it could get very good very quickly. And I do expect it to have a home in a deck somewhere.
I agree. I think at face value, it's not good. If you would just add this to a random deck, it would usually be one of the worst cards. Then it would just be a 3 out of 10. But you're only going to play this in decks that can make good use of it. In those decks, it might even be the centerpiece, the key built around. So one would be aggro refill engine. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to be the best use case. The other ones are combo decks, draw heavy decks, mill decks. In those decks, this is going to be the centerpiece. In those decks, it's going to be the 10 out of 10 card off the deck. But how strong are the decks going to be? That's the bigger question. So I'd give it, in those decks, I'd still give it a conservative overall 7, maybe 8 out of 10, because I don't think the decks are going to dominate the meta or the competitive scene or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 also, but that could change very quickly. I think this is a card we both like, but it's probably difficult to justify playing unless it's very specialized. It's a build around card, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's one of those cards that opens a lot of deck building opportunities, which I love, but it might be super frustrating to play against, which I kind of hate.
So I
polarizing card.
All the more reason to play it and not have it played against you. But yeah,
mental warfare.
That is the last card for this video in the Braindance Podcast. Thank you again very much to WeirdCo for allowing us to reveal those 2 cards. Let's look at them again. Of course, Detonate, lovely, and the Max Tack Heavy. Peter, any closing remarks?
No, not for this one. We'll do another video. A yellow, blue remaining cards that we have not reviewed yet. We're getting closer and closer to the actual Kickstarter fulfillment and being able to play the game. So it's nice to evaluate these cards now that we have more and more knowledge of what the whole set is. And I think at some point we got to go back and reevaluate a lot of our initial ratings, because now they look terrible.
Especially once we start playing, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, once you start playing, things start clicking very quickly. So yeah, but we appreciate you guys supporting the new podcast. If you're not subscribed already, please be sure to do so and give the video a like. Thank you so much for watching, and see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.